Hello, and welcome to G Fun Facts Online, the show that dives deep into the science behind our everyday lives. Today, we're tackling a topic that's sizzling with controversy, one that you'll find in your salad dressing, your cookies, your potato chips, and probably in a big clear bottle right in your kitchen pantry. We're talking about seed oils. For years, you've heard they're the heart-healthy choice, the smart swap for butter and animal fats. But if you spend any time online, you've likely seen a very different story. Influencers and health gurus are calling them toxic, poisonous, and blaming them for everything from acne to autoimmune disease. So, what's the real story? Are these oils a dietary hero or a villain in disguise? Today, we're cutting through the noise, busting the myths, and exploring the surprising science of seed oils. First things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say seed oils? It's pretty straightforward. They are fats extracted from the seeds of plants. Think canola oil from rapeseed, sunflower oil from sunflower seeds, soybean oil from soybeans, and corn oil from the germ of corn kernels. These are some of the most common oils on the planet. At their core, all oils are made of molecules called triglycerides. Imagine a little backbone called glycerol, with 3 fatty acids attached to it. The type of fatty acid is what makes all the difference. You've probably heard of the main categories: saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fats, or PUFAs for short. Seed oils are famous for being packed with PUFAs, specifically 2 types you've definitely heard of: omega-6 and omega-3. These are called essential fatty acids because our bodies are amazing. But they can't make these. We have to get them from our food. Omega-6 primarily as linoleic acid, and omega-3 as alpha-linolenic acid play crucial roles in brain function, cell growth, and managing inflammation. The problem, as we'll see, isn't that they exist, but potentially the massive quantities and the ratio in which we now consume them. Just to give you an idea of the differences, canola oil is known for having a good amount of monounsaturated fat and a decent omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Traditional sunflower and corn oils, on the other hand, are very high in the omega-6 linoleic acid. And soybean oil, one of the most widely consumed oils in the world, is also a big source of omega-6. This chemical tapestry is the foundation of the entire debate. So how do we get this oil out of a tiny seed and into that bottle? There are 2 main ways, and the method used has a huge impact on the final product. First, there's cold pressing. This is the artisanal, gentle approach. You mechanically crush and squeeze the seeds without using high heat or chemicals. This method preserves the oil's natural flavor, color, and many of its beneficial compounds like antioxidants and vitamin E. Think of that fancy, dark, nutty flavored sesame oil or extra virgin olive oil. The downside is that cold-pressed oils are more expensive, have a shorter shelf life, and often a lower smoke point, meaning they can burn and break down at high cooking temperatures. Then there's the industrial approach, which is how most of the seed oil you buy is made. It's called solvent extraction. The seeds are crushed and then washed with a chemical solvent, usually a substance called hexane, which dissolves the oil. The hexane is then boiled off and recycled. The crude oil that's left then goes through a process that sounds like a spa day from hell. It's refined, bleached, and deodorized, or RBD. This RBD process is a major point of contention. The high heat and chemical treatments are designed to create a perfectly neutral-tasting, light-colored oil with a long shelf life and a high smoke point, making it perfect for deep frying and commercial food production. However, critics argue this intense processing strips the oil of its natural nutrients, like vitamin E, and can even create small amounts of harmful byproducts. Proponents say the process removes impurities and makes the oil safer and more versatile. And right here, in this factory process, is where the first seeds of doubt about seed oils were sown. Alright, let's get to the main event. Are these oils healthy or harmful? This is where things get complicated, and where science and social media often collide. Let's start with the case against seed oils. The main argument boils down to one thing: inflammation. The theory is that the modern Western diet is absolutely flooded with omega-6 fatty acids, thanks to the explosion of processed foods made with cheap soybean, corn, and sunflower oils. Historically, humans might have consumed omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids in a ratio of maybe 4 to 1, or even 1 to 1. Today, some estimates put that ratio at a staggering 20 to 1 or even higher. The concern is that an excess of the omega-6 linoleic acid leads to the creation of another fatty acid called arachidonic acid, which can then be converted into pro-inflammatory compounds in the body. Critics link this cascade of inflammation to a whole host of modern chronic diseases: heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and autoimmune disorders. In this view, our salad dressings and baked goods are secretly fanning the flames of disease inside our bodies. It sounds terrifying, but what does the broader scientific evidence say? Well, this is where the narrative gets flipped on its head. Many large-scale scientific studies and health organizations, including the American Heart Association, tell a different story. For decades, the recommendation has been to replace saturated fats, the kind found in butter, lard, and fatty meats, with unsaturated fats, including the PUFAs from seed oils. Why? Because countless studies have shown that linoleic acid, the very omega-6 fatty acid we're told to fear, is actually very effective at lowering LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, which is a major risk factor for heart disease. Furthermore, when scientists have actually looked for the link between eating linoleic acid and signs of inflammation in the body, the results are surprising. Several large reviews of clinical trials have found no evidence that eating more linoleic acid increases markers of inflammation. In fact, some huge observational studies have found that people with higher levels of linoleic acid in their blood and fat tissue actually have a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So what's going on? How can the story be so divided? A huge piece of the puzzle might be context. Where are we getting these seed oils from? A drizzle of sunflower oil on a homemade salad full of fresh vegetables is one thing, but a huge portion of our seed oil intake comes from ultra-processed foods: chips, crackers, frozen pizzas, and fast food. These foods aren't just high in seed oils, they're also packed with sugar, refined flour, sodium, and a cocktail of other additives. So is it the oil itself that's the problem, or the nutritional nightmare of the junk food package it comes in? It's incredibly difficult to separate the two, and many scientists argue we're blaming the passenger when the driver is the overall unhealthy dietary pattern. To really understand this debate, we need to look back in time, because eating this much seed oil is a very new thing in human history. For thousands of years, dietary fats came from traditional sources: animal fats like butter and lard, or plant fats from fruits like olive and coconut oil. The game changed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The Industrial Revolution brought new technology. Suddenly, we could extract oil from things we never thought of as food. Cottonseed oil, for example, was originally an industrial waste product from the cotton industry. Then, in the early 1900s, a process called hydrogenation was invented. This allowed chemists to turn liquid vegetable oil into a solid, shelf-stable fat. The result? Crisco, which was marketed as a cheaper, more modern alternative to lard. The real tipping point came in the mid-20th century. Scientists began to link high intake of saturated fat with heart disease. This led to official dietary guidelines urging people to cut back on animal fats and replace them with polyunsaturated vegetable oils. The food industry, always looking for cheap and stable ingredients, was more than happy to oblige. Industrial agriculture ramped up production of corn, soy, and rapeseed. This perfect storm, health recommendations, industrial innovation, and agricultural policy, led to a dramatic explosion in seed oil consumption that continues to this day. We didn't just change our diets, we fundamentally re-engineered the fat composition of our entire food supply in just a few decades. Now, I have to mention a specific villain in this story that often gets lumped in with the general seed oil debate: trans fats. Remember that hydrogenation process that created Crisco? When it's done only partially, it has an unfortunate side effect. It creates artificial trans fatty acids. These are not the same as the naturally occurring unsaturated fats. Their chemical structure is twisted, and the health effects are devastating. Artificial trans fats are proven to be a cardiovascular nightmare. They raise your bad LDL cholesterol, while simultaneously lowering your good HDL cholesterol. The link to heart disease is so strong and so clear that most health authorities consider them to have no safe level of consumption. Thankfully, due to these well-established risks, many countries have now banned or severely restricted the use of these partially hydrogenated oils. Most of the seed oils you buy in the bottle today for home cooking are not hydrogenated and do not contain trans fats. So, while trans fats are a dark chapter in the history of seed oils, it's a separate issue from the modern debate about omega-6 and inflammation. The impact of seed oils doesn't stop at our bodies, it extends to the planet. The environmental footprint of producing these oils is complex and varies wildly depending on the crop. Palm oil is the poster child for environmental concern. While it comes from the fruit, not the seed, it's the world's most consumed vegetable oil. Its production is a primary driver of deforestation in places like Indonesia and Malaysia, destroying the habitats of endangered species like orangutans and releasing massive amounts of carbon from cleared forests and peatlands. Soybean oil is another major player. The massive expansion of soy farms, especially in South America, has been linked to the clearing of the Amazon rainforest and other vital ecosystems. Conventional soy farming is also very intensive, often relying on heavy use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Even canola and sunflower oil have an impact. Like any large-scale agriculture, their production requires land, water, and often chemicals. The practice of monocropping, growing the same single crop year after year, can deplete soil health and reduce biodiversity. There are efforts to make things better. The Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, or RSPO, is one example, creating standards to certify palm oil produced without deforestation. But the sheer scale of global demand for cheap vegetable oil makes this an ongoing environmental challenge. So after all that, what's the verdict? Are seed oils good or bad? The unsatisfying but honest answer is, it's complicated. The science of seed oils is not the black and white picture you see on social media. They are not a single entity. A cold-pressed, unrefined oil is biochemically different from a highly refined, bleached, and deodorized one. Their health effects depend on their specific fatty acid profile, how they were made, and most importantly, the food they're in. Should you be terrified of the bottle of canola oil in your pantry? Based on the weight of the scientific evidence, probably not. When used in moderation for home cooking, especially as a replacement for saturated fats like butter, refined seed oils can be part of a healthy diet. And less processed oils, like cold-pressed versions, can offer even more benefits. The real villain here seems to be the context. A diet high in seed oils is often a diet high in ultra-processed, nutrient-poor junk food. Limiting those foods is almost certainly a good idea for your health, regardless of what kind of oil they contain. The story of seed oils is a powerful lesson in nutritional science. It shows us how science evolves, how industry and history shape what we eat, and why we should be wary of sensationalized claims and seek out a more nuanced, holistic view. The key isn't to fear a single ingredient, but to build a diet based on whole, minimally processed foods. And that's a piece of advice that, unlike the debate over seed oils, isn't controversial at all. Thanks for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online. Join us next time as we unravel the science behind another piece of your world.